right? This is our first class for the cohort, right? For cohorts 4.0, and you guys have made it here. So welcome. I'm excited to teach you guys, right? I'm excited to teach you JavaScript and NodeJs and Express. But I think most of you um, don't have experience with programming yet. Most of you might, some of you might not have, right? So for the benefit of those people that are totally new, right? They've not used any programming language. They are just totally new to programming. We are doing this class. And also, even if you have experience with programming, it will also uh, benefit you if you join or if you're in this class, so you don't need to actually leave. Okay, so this is what we are going to cover in this particular class. We are going to look at what is programming, why is it even important. Then we'll see what is JavaScript, right? What is JavaScript? How is it useful to us? Then we are also going to talk about career opportunities as someone that writes JavaScript. Okay, then we're also going to talk about how you can set up your environment to work with JavaScript or to run JavaScript. Okay, I hope everybody got that. Anybody didn't hear me?
We heard you.
Yes, we get it, sir.
Okay, cool. So let's look. What is programming, right? So this is the reason for this class and the reason for learning programming. You speak English, right? Your computer understands zeros and ones and some other commands, right? But then your computer and you can communicate. You and your computer can communicate, but you have to do it in a way that the computer understands, right? So passing commands that your computer can actually understand is called programming. So if you write something that your computer can understand and can run and give you a response, right? So you've made but that's process of passing that instruction to your computer is called programming. So Fatima, you raised your hands. So do you have any question? If you have any question, you can actually just write it on the chat section here. I'm actually looking at the chat section. Okay. So that's what programming is, right? Being able to pass instructions to your computer, and your computer understands it and then sends back a response, right? Or it executes what you tell it to execute. So now you pass commands to your computer using what is called a programming language, right? There are different kinds of languages. There are what is called markup languages. There are what is called markdown languages. There is what is called style sheets, language for styling and the rest. But then what makes the difference between programming languages and other languages is that programming language is used to give instruction, right? It's used to pass an instruction to your system. I think I've really emphasized that. Okay, so then JavaScript is one of the programming languages out there, right? They are examples of programming language. You have C#, you have Python, you have C++, you have C, you have JavaScript, you have PHP. Yeah, there are a lot of them, right? Those ones I mentioned are the very popular ones. So JavaScript, right? What's JavaScript? So JavaScript is a programming language that has been used over the years. Before now, like let's say, so let's go by a little bit of the history of JavaScript, right? So JavaScript is also called ECMAScript, right? ECMAScript. Now, before I think 2010 or so, or 2012, JavaScript was only executed on the browsers, right? So a long time ago, JavaScript was just something you could use with your HTML and your CSS to execute commands, right, on your browser. And then it was just limited to just being executed on your browser. So that means by then, JavaScript was used mainly for front-end development, right? Web development. So you develop websites using HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript. So that's where JavaScript came in, right? So not too, let's just say, I think few years ago, NodeJs is not that very old, right? So NodeJs came out, and then NodeJs brought the ability of us to run JavaScript away from the browser, right? So it must not just run on the browser. You can run it somewhere else. You can run it without opening up your browser, right? So that's brought a lot of opportunities for JavaScript as being a language. So running it away from the browser means you could use it to run, you could use it to write your back end. You could use it for maybe to write a desktop app. You can use it to write a mobile app. You can use it to do a lot of other things, right? Not just building websites, right? Using JavaScript. You can use it to do other things. Okay, so that brought that Node.js, right? Brought that that opportunity for JavaScript to express itself out of the browser. Okay, so now let's look at the career opportunities as a JavaScript developer. Now, as you're writing JavaScript, right? You don't just want to write it for fun. You want to write it to actually make money from it, right? Money. Am I right or wrong? Everybody wants to make money as a developer.
Yes, you're right.
So I think this is like the interesting part for some people. So what are the things you could use JavaScript to do? Okay. Someone said you are very correct. Okay, so you can use JavaScript to build websites, right? Or they call it web apps now, right? So you can use JavaScript to build websites, web apps, right? Someone asked what's the difference between websites, web apps, right? Okay, now websites, right, are built with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Websites, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? And then you're done. Web apps are built with frameworks. So you have things like React, Next.js, Angular, all those frameworks, right? Now, you can work as a front-end developer knowing JavaScript, but you would need to know JavaScript with one of those frameworks. So now, what is a framework, right? A framework is a pre-written tool, or a pre-written set of tools, right, that is bundled for you to use as a developer. So one of the advantage of using frameworks, right, is that it makes your work quite easy, right? Things that you may not have handled by yourself, maybe because you didn't know about those things, right? The framework would handle it for you on the background without your knowledge, right? So it makes programming, or it makes your job, right? As, let's say, a front-end developer in this context, it makes your job easier to execute, right? You can also use JavaScript. Okay, please, sir, we are going to have the record of this class. Yes, you're going to have the record of this class. The record of this class is going to be posted on YouTube. So after the class, if you want to rewatch this class, right? After this session, if you want to rewatch the class, it will be posted on YouTube. There will be a playlist that will be created for this particular class. Okay, so that's by the way. So let's continue. You can work. I just finished talking about working as a front-end developer with JavaScript, right? And I said you need to know React or Next.js or Angular. It's not it's not a must that you must know all of those frameworks I've mentioned, right? You can know one or two and you're good to go, right? Because learning even one framework, right? One framework has a lot of things you need to learn. For example, if we say you're learning React, there are things you need to learn. You need to learn Redux. You need to learn how to use components. You learn how to use something like maybe Tailwind. Different things to learn for that particular framework, right? And then most of what you learn in a particular framework can be used in other frameworks, right? Can be also applied in other frameworks, right? But the best thing to do is to learn one or two and be very, very good at it. Okay, because anybody that wants to employ you won't employ you because you know 5 different frameworks, right? Or front-end frameworks. What they'll employ you for is to actually solve a problem with what you know. So if you know 5, but you don't know how to use those 5 effectively to solve a problem, to build something that could go to production, then there's no use learning that much, right? Then another thing, you can use JavaScript, right, uh, with React Native to build mobile apps, cross-platform mobile apps. So when I say cross-platform, let me explain what I mean. You can use JavaScript, right, with React Native to build um, apps that can work for both iOS and Android. Okay, so when I say cross-platform, I mean not just restricted to one platform, it can work on other platforms, right? So you can use that, you can use JavaScript to React Native to build cross-platform mobile apps. You can use React, right? You can use JavaScript to also build desktop apps, cross-platform desktop apps. And you can use what is called Electron. Electron is a framework out there that you can use to build cross-platform um, cross-platform apps, right? Sorry, cross-platform apps for different platforms. For example, you can use Electron to build an app for your Linux operating system or for your Windows operating system. That's a desktop app for your Windows or Linux operating system. Now, I'll give a classic example of that. How many of you use Slack? Or how many of you have heard of Slack, right? Or how many of you have heard of Postman? Anybody? If you've heard of or you've used Slack, right? Or Postman, you can just indicate in the comment section Slack, right? So Slack is like it's a workspace and it's also a kind of workspace slash social media app, because there you're also going to socialize, you're also going to meet with other people, right? So if you've heard of Slack or you've used Slack or you've used Postman, now those, okay, you've used Slack, okay, you've used Postman, okay, I see Hakim says he has used Slack, Ade Mola Hope says he or she has used, okay, he has used Slack, okay, no problem. Now, those two, right, those two uh, platforms I mentioned, right? Okay, Prince Second, you said you're very backward. Okay, whatever that means, we'll talk about it later on. So, if you've not used Slack, you can just download it and maybe test it, see how it works. Now, Slack and Postman are 2 examples I'm using, right? If you try to install it on your Windows, right? If you download their desktop app and you install it on your operating system, if you're using Windows, you install it. What you're installing is something that was built using Electron, right? So there are still some other libraries too, like Nextron. Nextron is another library you can use to build desktop apps with Next.js. Okay, but Electron is more popular, right? Electron is more used So you can use Electron to build. So for example, if you know how to use Electron JS very well, and you know JavaScript very well, and there's a job opening at Postman or Slack, you can apply. And if it is for maybe the desktop developer using Postman to develop their desktop or maintain their desktop applications, you can get that job easily simply because you know Electron and you know JavaScript. Okay. Then also JavaScript can be used on the back end. So when we say back end, what do we mean? We mean a service that accepts requests from a client and responds with a result, right? So this is how backend works. Let me try to break that down to you guys. This is how backend works, right? It's a service that sits there somewhere on the internet, somewhere on what is called a server. So a server is one fancy name for a CP or a system unit, a powerful system unit that is maybe maintained by a company where you can host your things there. You can host your services. You can put your file there. For example, let me use a classic example, something you guys will relate to easily. Let me use Dropbox, for example. Dropbox is where you host your files on the cloud, right? Or let's say Google Drive. Google Drive is where you host your files. Like you keep your files there, right? And you can access them anytime. Now, the same way you can do that, you can also host your service, your backend service. So for example, if you own a restaurant and then let's take a restaurant for example, you own a restaurant and then you want to build a website that people can maybe order foods from your restaurant from the comfort of their home, right? Now, after building the website, you will need a service, right? A service that would be able to accept orders, right? Save those orders and maybe show those orders to you. You understand? Now, that service that is processing those orders, processing anything that has to do with information that maybe is needed by that your website, that service is the back end, or is called the API for your website, right? And two of them can possibly run on the same port, or they can run on different ports. I know that I'm sure going a bit far from you guys. Maybe not everybody can relate to, but it's totally fine. We are going to see all these things in action when we start writing code, okay? So I hope nobody has any question. Anybody has any question? If you have, the comment section is still there, right? Then you can work with JavaScript. You can work as a backend developer with JavaScript, right? So those are the few career opportunities, right? You can, okay, let me also say this. You can also work as a tutor or as a trainer for if you know JavaScript, because there are a lot of people out there that want to learn JavaScript, right? So if you know it very well, there are people that are willing to pay for it, right? There are people that are willing to learn JavaScript. A lot of them out there. There are schools that are looking for people to teach JavaScript, right? So as a JavaScript developer or as someone that knows JavaScript, there are a lot of opportunities for you, right? So let's move on from there. So we've talked about what is programming, what is JavaScript, its use, career opportunities as a JavaScript developer. Let's look at setting up your development environment. Okay, so what is a development environment first of all? Now, when you're writing JavaScript, you're not just going to write it on any application, right? You're not going to write it anywhere you want to write it. You would definitely write it where it can be executed or where it can easily be processed, right? So that place or that environment where you can write and execute your code, right, is called your development environment. Okay? I hope nobody has a question on that. Now, how do you set up your development environment? There are two things, or there are two platforms or two applications you will need, right? First, you need VS Code. So VS Code, VS there stands for Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code. So now, mind you, there is Visual Studio and there's Visual Studio Code. Okay. There's even another one called Visual Studio Codium, right? What I'm referring to here is Visual Studio Code, VS Code. That's what we are going to use in this cohort. And also, you would need NodeJS, right? So Visual Studio Code is where you're going to write your program, right? You use that environment to write every program you want to run. Then you use VS Code to write your programs, right? And then what are the advantages of using VS Code, right, to write your JavaScript? First, there's what is called syntax highlighting. So if you write a function in JavaScript, for example, VS Code is going to highlight it, right? VS Code is going to tell you, okay, I understand what you're doing. If you write something that is not correct, right, or that is not acceptable in JavaScript, right, it's going to then underline it for you, and so you know that, okay, what you've written here is not actually right. Okay, so those are the few things, right? And VS Code also provides you with what is called extensions. So extensions are they are add-ons you can use to enhance your coding or your programming, right? So maybe you can install an add-on on your VS Code. Maybe that add-on can be giving you suggestions while you're typing, right? Then what is Node.js? So Node.js is where you run or you execute your JavaScript code, right? That is away from the browser. So I've been talking much. So let's see how we can actually set up our environment. Now, let's see. Let me exit this screen. So let me reshare my screen. So I hope you guys are following. So we'll do a little bit of practical in today's class. I don't know if you guys can still see my screen. Okay, you guys can see it. Okay, now if you go to VS Code, right? VS Code, if you just search VS Code download, right? You go there and you click. What you would see is, okay, you'd first see this link, code.visualstudio.com/download. So you click there, and when it loads up, it's going to show you different platforms you can download your VS Code on. So if you're using Windows 10, Windows 11, you click here to download it. If you're using Linux, like me, I use Linux, I use Zorin operating system. So if you're using Linux, you download, so either you download for Debian or Ubuntu. So there are two major kinds of distributions, or should I say major types of Linux, right? You have the Debian or Ubuntu one, and then you have the Red Hats, that's the RPMs and the Debians, right? Then Mac OS for people that are rich, that have Mac OS, right? So don't mind me. If you have a Mac OS, you can actually use this link to download for your operating system. Now, this is for downloading VS Code. How about downloading Node.js? So if you search Node.js, right? If you just search Node.js, let me say Node.js download, right? I hope you guys are taking notes. So if you search for Node.js download, you'll see this link. It will always be nodejs.org/en/download, right? You click here. When you click here, you'll be presented with the screen to download Node.js. So you see, you can then click download Node.js to download the Node.js. So after downloading it, you can install. Remember, when you're downloading, before downloading, check this. There are different versions of Node.js. There's what is called the LTS version, right? So this LTS means long-term support. So which means this LTS is going to be supported for quite a long time. Let's say this LTS can be supported from like 6 months to a year. So if you download Node.js with version 20.13.1, you can use this maybe until the next 6 months or to the next 8 months or 1 year, and you would not need to update it because it is stable, right? And it's going to be supported for a long time. Now, when this other part talks about the version of Node.js you're trying to download. Are you trying to download Node.js for Windows? Is it for Mac OS? Is it for Linux? Okay, for Linux, it's not actually allowing me to click there. So I think there's a command for Linux if you want to download for Linux, right? So I think the command should be npm, sorry, it should be sudo apt install node, right? sudo apt install node. For people that use Linux, you'll be familiar with it. Then this one has to do with what version of uh, what OS version or what they call this is 64. This is usually referred to as 32 bits. For this, for 32 bits operating system, 64. Then these ones are for ARM, still I think ARM still 64-bit operating systems, right? But for the most part, just choose x64 because most, except your laptop is really old, then you now choose this x86, right? So, but normally you choose the 64-bit operating system to actually download. Okay. So does anybody have any question with what I've done so far? If you have a question, you can put it on the chat. If you don't have any questions, so we can move on. So this is the last thing we are going to do now today. We are going to look at how to run a JavaScript code, right? And to first to verify our installation and to run our JavaScript code. So for us to do that, let me reshare my screen and show you guys something. Okay, so let me reshare my screen. Just give me a minute. So I'll see. Okay, I'm resharing my screen, so you guys just be patient. It's going to load up very soon. All right, so we are here. I hope you guys can see my Visual Studio Code. I think I need to make it a little bit bigger for you guys to see. Okay, now we are in VS Code, right? I just opened my VS Code and I think let me delete this and create a file for you guys to see how I actually did it. Let me move that to trash. Let me come back here. Now, when you open your VS Code, right, you have these options. You can create a new file. You can create a folder. You can refresh your Explorer, collapse. So these two are actually important. So any file you want to run in your JavaScript code, right? Any file you want to run your JavaScript code will always have the extension .js. This is what I mean. If I want to create a JavaScript file okay, someone is saying mine is very empty. VS Code, I mean. Yes, so yours is empty. That is normal, right? Yours is empty because you've not used it to run a project recently. So let me close all these tabs. Don't mind me. I want to relate with what you guys are doing too. So let me close all these tabs. They are not actually necessary. So, sorry. Okay. So I'm back here. So look at this. Sorry. Let me create a new file on my desktop and open it with VS Code. So the first thing you need to learn is how can you create a new file and open it with VS Code. So look at this. This is how you can create a new file and open it in VS Code. So I think I should just share my whole screen. I'm not afraid of you guys. Nobody's going to steal anything from me. Okay, so let me do that. I hope you guys are enjoying the class.
Yes, sir, we are enjoying it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys are seeing my desktop, my desktop screen. I'll create a new folder, right? You guys can also do it along with me, right? While I'm doing it, you can create a new folder. Okay, and I'll call that new folder, I'll just say, someone should suggest a name I should call the folder. I'm not sure. Can someone suggest a name?
Maybe example. Yeah, just one or example.
Let me just call it KodeCamp 4, KodeCamp _4. So I create that folder, KodeCamp _4, right? Now, I'll need to open this folder with VS Code, right? So I think let me just close my VS Code and let's see how I can actually do that. So I'm here, I'm in my desktop, right? If you're using Windows, right, you just come and click on the start button here or somewhere here, click on it, and then you look for VS Code. If you've installed it well, you would see it. But here in Linux, right, or here on my operating system, I have to press my Windows key, or yeah, the Win key, right? Then I have VS Code already here. But if I don't want to click here, I can actually search for it. Like you say VIS, right? So VS Code is here. So I'll open it. Then that's one thing. That's one thing to do. Now, we open VS Code. We now need to open that folder that we created, right? We created a folder on the desktop. So we'll now click on File. We'll go to Open Folder. Then when we go to Open Folder, we go to Desktop. We now see KodeCamp 4, right? So when we see KodeCamp 4, we select that folder and click Open. Now, on Windows, when you see this folder, you click on it once and then go and click on Select Folder somewhere at the bottom of the modal that comes up, right? Or at the bottom of the window that comes up. You see a place, you see maybe select folder at the bottom somewhere here, you see the folder. So you just click once on that folder and then you click that select folder. But here on my system, you choose that folder and you click open. Okay, now we've opened that folder that we've created, right? Anytime it shows this modal here, that do you trust the authors of the file in this folder, just press yes. Always trust it. I've never pressed no on that, so just always press yes so that you don't have extra issues. Now, we've opened that folder, right? But that folder is totally empty. There's no file, there's nothing on that folder, right? Now, this is what we can do. We can either right click and click on new file, or we can click on this button to create a new file. I hope you guys are following me. If you're not following, you can write on the chat section or the comment section. So let me reshare to only show you VS Code, right? Okay. So we are finally here. Right. So to create a JavaScript file, I would click on this new file and then I'll call it, let me call it script.js. You press enter. Now we've created our script folder. Now notice that it ends with .js. This is to let our to let VS Code know that it is a JavaScript file that we are creating. Okay. So what we can do, we can try out our first program. So who knows the first program you run as a developer? The very first program. What is it always? What do you usually print out?
Hello world.
Yeah,
Console log hello
okay,
world.
okay. Hello world. Okay, cool. So this is how you do it in JavaScript. You say console.log, right? And then inside here, you'd say hello world. Cool. So we've written that out. Notice that my C is in small letters, my L is in small letters, console.log, right? Now, how do we execute this, right? We've written this nice code. How do we actually execute it? So to execute it using Node.js, you then come here to terminal and click new terminal, right? That's going to open up your terminal, right? So this terminal is like your normal terminal. That's place that you run your script, right? The environment where you run your script, or maybe if you're on Linux, you used to install apps and the rest. Okay, so command prompt is just where you can pass commands directly to your system, right? So we have what is called GUI, we have what is called CLI. So GUI is the short form of what is known as graphical user interface, which is what VS Code has, which is all these graphical user interface has icons, right? Has color. See, I can hover on things and then see the what is used for, right? Okay, so someone said I'm too fast. Okay, so I guess let me close this out and then let's start again. Okay, so look at this. We can actually, I'm here, I've created. Okay, someone is saying I think I'm lost. Okay, so where are you lost? Where did you miss your way? Okay, let's
Can we
start
have the
from.
console?
Okay, this terminal, right?
Yes, that terminal.
Okay, now your terminal is not going to look totally as my own, okay? Because we are using different operating systems. Now, for some people, I think people that don't use Windows 10 and Windows 11, you need to download what is called Git Bash. So Git Bash is going to enable you run kind of Linux-like commands, right? Linux commands on your end. So I think I should reshare my screen. Let's do that together for people that haven't or don't know where to go. So let me reshare my screen. Let's go back to our browser. Okay, so if we wrote git bash, right? Git bash download, or that, you'd see this link, gitscm.com/download. You then click on it. Or you can use Git for Windows. If you click on any of them, right? Git or Git for Windows. Anyway, if you're using Windows, you definitely go for Git for Windows. So this is Git for Windows, right? Then you download it. So you click on download to download Git for Windows. So what is it? Okay, it's Git for Windows. Git for Windows provides a bash emulation used to run Git from the command line. Okay, so Unix or Linux, this star here just means either UNIX or LINUX. Like NIX users, that's Unix users, Linux users can actually feel at right home trying to do that. So you're also going to install git bash or git for Windows, right? Okay, now knowing that, I hope there's no other question. Any other person has a question? Aniek and Thomas and Prince Ekong. I hope you guys are not lost. Are you guys still lost?
No, I'm not lost. I'm following up.
You are found.
I'm found now, sir.
I'm
Thank you,
following
sir.
up, sir.
So you found yourself. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, let's continue. So we can now go back to our VS Code and finish up from where we started, from where we left out there. Okay. So let me go back there. We have Hello World here already, right? And here I've already installed VS Code. I've already installed NodeJs. So I'll just come here, click on terminal, click on new terminal to bring out this terminal, right? On yours, when you click on terminal, there might be something like this. So you can choose bash, right? If you choose bash, it's going to bring out bash is the default, right, in Linux, but on Windows you need to command when the terminal comes up, you see this arrow down there. You now choose bash. Once you choose bash, you see something similar to this, an interface similar to this, right? Then from this interface you can then execute your JavaScript code. But before executing your JavaScript code, this is what you do. Type this to be sure that you have your JavaScript installed, right? Or your Node.js installed. You type node space, then dash, that's double dash, then you now write version. Enter. Okay, so if you see something similar to this, v20.10.0, you're on track, means you're using the correct version of Git of Node.js. But if you see something different, it means your installation wasn't completed. So you might either need to restart your system, okay, or you install it if you didn't try to install it before. Okay, now what are the things I could do here? I could write ls, right? ls to see what is the content of my KodeCamp 4 file folder, right? So how do I actually execute this script.js? To execute it, I'll type node space, and then I'll write the name of the file I want to execute, which is script.js. Once I press enter, we see hello world there. So now, if I've written a lot of commands here and I want to clear it, this is another command here. So I could write clear and press enter. So that clears out my terminal, and then I can decide to execute the script again. Now, instead of me writing node script.js, right, I can use my up arrow on my keyboard, the up arrow on my keyboard, to go to the previous commands I have run. So if I press up once, it shows clear. Clear is the last command I ran. If I press up again, it's going to show me node script.js, which is the command that executed this file. So I can enter that, and then we have hello world. I could decide to do something else. Console.log, welcome to our first ever class. Yay. Okay. So for me to run it, I'll just press my arrow key once, which would show the previous command I tried to execute. Then I'll just press enter, and it's going to print that for me. Okay. So does anybody have any question? If you followed up to this extent, do you have any question Are you confused? Do you have something you'd like to say? Was I too fast? Okay. If you can say it on the comment section now, right? Or uh, yeah, just say it on the comment section, right? So if I'm too fast, you can actually say it there. Now, look at what I'm doing here, right? I said console.log, right? What, how come console.log is working? What is console.log, right? So console.log is a, a, a function, right? Or you can run or to output the result of its argument or its parameter. So let me explain. This here is what I passed to console.log, right? As a value that I want it to print. Okay. Okay, so Anyakan, you say I was very fast. Okay, sorry about that. So that's the reason why I'm explaining this again. Okay, if you didn't get it, okay. So you can still watch the video again, right? You can watch the video later on, but still stay on the class because I'm trying to explain something. Okay, so when you say console.log, right? Console.log, yeah, console.log is similar to what is called print in Python. So this is one thing with programming language. What makes one programming language different from another is the way the syntax is being written, and maybe some few features of that programming language that might make it different from others. So in Python, in Python, this is what you write. You write print and then you pass something you want to pass. But this is not a Python class, right? Other languages have theirs, like C# would be console dot write line, right? Something like this, but sorry, console in capital C, right? Okay, but this is not the C# class either. Okay, now um, I can decide to run this over and over again. I could decide to run it 20 times. I could decide to do whatever. So in our next class, let me just do this. We can also log out something like digits. For example, we can say, I want to log out 500, right? So I have 500. I want to log out 500. So I'll say, see me, I'm typing console. Hello, guys. I don't know. Let me share my screen again. I'm back. Sorry. Okay, so this was what we did last, right? Now look at this. Why is 500 printing uh yellow instead of white like others? Okay, so this is not going to be for this class, right? Now let me just give you an introduction. There's what is called data types, right? Data types, JavaScript data types. Now, you can go on your own and research about data types. What is data types? Why is one data type different from another? Okay, so there's what is called data types in JavaScript. And in our next class, we are going to talk about data types. We are also going to talk about variables. What are variables and what are constants? Okay, so if we say something is a variable, we say another thing is a constant. What makes them different from each other, right? That's what we are going to do in our next class. Constants, variables, right? And then also, um, if there is time in our next class, right, we would also get to do get to use Git and GitHub. We are going to do that. It's very important. You guys need to know what Git is, what GitHub is, what's their difference, what makes them work together, how you can use one without using the other one if you wish to, right? So that's it. Does anybody have any question or contribution? I know I went really fast, okay? And there's no pause button on this video, right? So I understand that. So if you have any question, anything you want to clarify, right? You can say it now. Looking at the chat section. Okay, so absence of is
Can
someone
you hear me?
trying? Yeah, are you trying to say something?
Yes, I'm trying to say something.
Okay. So what are you saying?
Good afternoon, boss. I don't know. I don't think a proper introduction was done because I don't really know your name. And then I'm looking at the list of persons that are here, and I'm seeing Austin or Gaga. I don't even know who that is. I'm seeing Precious as well. So I don't know if I can get to know your name and then I get to know a few persons on this call. Who is Austin?
Okay. So first of all, if you say you don't know my name, okay, I'm sorry I didn't say it, but it was on the slide, right? It depends on what time you joined the class because I showed a slide before now, right? I showed a slide and then before I shared my browser and then I came to Visual Studio Code. Okay, so my name is Victor Peter Uko, but just you can call me Victor, right? That's my name. For the person you mentioned, I don't know who that is. Yeah, I don't really know who that is, but he's also a student, right? He's a student here. So I think that's how have I answered your question? I don't know if I've answered your question.
Okay, boss. Yeah, you have.
Okay. So is there any other question you want to ask? Any other question? Any other person that would want to ask any question? Okay. So in the absence of any question, I think we should call it a day and then we'll meet up on Friday by 2. So Friday by 2, I'm expecting to.
Hello, sir. Hello, good evening, sir. Sorry, good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon.
Yeah, apologies for cutting you in.
Okay.
What I actually want to say is not totally a question, but I just felt like I should let's say chip it in. Now, before now, I was actually going through the recent or the last what's it called? Would I call it webinar or bootcamp that you had?
Okay.
That's on backend development and all. So I was watching it on YouTube before now. So my question is, now that the class have started, do you still advise that I continue or I just stay in to go with the pace of the class?
Okay. So you can actually, so now this is the thing. Why do we have these videos and we have this live call? The videos, right, would just give you an idea of what you want, right? Of what you want to learn. You can't ask questions on those videos, right? That's why you're in this cohort because you would also you would ask questions here. Two, you'll be given assignments here, which you would actually submit. So you can actually continue with those videos, but it's also important to join this one because there might be new things that I would say here and that might come out in your assignments, which I didn't probably say in the other cohort, right? So there might be differences, okay? There might even be differences in maybe mode of submission of assignments, right? There is always going to be a difference between how things are done in maybe a previous cohort and the current cohort. So it will still be important for you to follow up on the videos that we're having here on this current cohort. If you want to follow the videos in the last cohort, it's optional. That one is like, how do I put it? It's optional. If you want to do it, you do it. If you don't want to follow up with the former cohort videos, then it's fine. But this one is actually necessary. It's required that you follow these videos. Have I answered your question?
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah, so someone is asking, is the class section going to be 1 hour? Now that depends on the topic, right? There are topics that we can't actually exhaust in 1 hour, right? So it might span more than 1 hour, but I'll try as much as possible to make it 1 hour to 1 hour 30 minutes. It shouldn't get to 2 hours, okay? Should be 1 hour, 1 hour 30 minutes. That's how far I'll try to make it out. I know long classes are usually, like, most times boring, but I'll try to make it interesting. I'll try to make it interactive, right? But it shouldn't pass 1 hour 30 minutes at most. Okay. So is there any other question? I think there is no other question for now. So Prince Ekong, you can I think we can actually okay, you said you're not following up, right? So you can drop whatever challenges, right, you have on the Discord. So I'll be there, I'll check out what you can maybe drop a screenshot and drop it on the Discord. Don't actually come to my DM, because 5 people can DM me with the same problem, and maybe trying to now answer those 5 people, right, would make it burdensome or stressful to do the same problem for different people. But if one person drops it and I answer that question, maybe someone else that will face that problem would already know that, okay, this is how to solve it, because someone actually faced that problem and we solved it together. Okay. So someone is asking, should someone new to JS join this class, or lower with JS knowledge? Well, I don't understand the lower with JS knowledge part, but someone new to JS, yes, this is beginner Node.js, right? This is beginner Node.js class, not intermediate. Intermediate, right? That is where it will be required that you should know a bit of JavaScript, or at least you should know JavaScript to a fair extent before joining. But in this class, you might have a little bit of knowledge about JavaScript, or you can come as you are. If you don't have any knowledge about JavaScript, it's still fine. Would start from the very basics and then teach you till you can actually start building things with what you've learned. Okay, so I think I've answered your questions. If you still have more questions, just put it on the Discord channel. We'll talk there. And guys, try to loosen up. Like, on the Discord channel, is not we are not inside office. Okay, let me put it that way. We are not inside office. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't, there are rules, right? You can't drop swear words there. You don't insult anybody, but we can vibe together there, okay? So I don't think there is any other question for now. If there is, we'll treat it on Discord. So this is where I wrap it up for today's class. Thank you guys for taking out time to come to today's class. I really appreciate it. And I'd like to see even more than this number, right? More than this number. I want to see more than this number on Friday. So Friday by 2 o'clock, we are going to have this class again. Okay? Thank you very much. And see you in the next class.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Okay.